So we have 2 answers for Child Hub website and 3 for friends and colleagues, and 1 vote for other, and 1 for newsletter. Thank you very much for your answers. So then my other task is really, without further ado, to introduce our guest speaker of today. Bikenna Zogai has been Child Protection and Participation Learning Hub leader of the World Vision Middle East and Eastern Europe office for the past 6 years. Bikenna has been involved in the field of child participation and protection for the past 20 years. She's a technical leader, advocator, promoter and innovator, networker, researcher and facilitator of learning for subject matter experts working in diverse emergency and development contexts, focusing on design and quality of programs for protection of children, adolescents, and youth experiencing deprivation, exclusion, and vulnerability. She is also a connector of governmental, non-governmental, stakeholder universities, and donors that successfully mobilize resources, human and financial, for implementing effective evidence-based child protection intervention models. And this afternoon, we'll be talking about involving most vulnerable children in child protection policymaking, the advantages and challenges. And then with this, I let our guest speaker commence, and I will put up the I have a bit of a technical difficulty.
Can you hear
if
me
you're
now?
with us, could you? Yes.
Perfect. Oh, great. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Judith. So, do you want me now to start the presentation?
Yeah, if you could, because I don't seem to be able to put it up.
Okay. Because it should be there for me to move the presentation.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I managed now. Okay. Here you go.
Okay, that's okay. So, I mean, it's quite normal that there are some difficulties like this. Okay, thanks so much, Judith. So I'm taking from here. Thanks so much for the very nice words that you presented. I'm very excited to be in this call. Why? For 3 reasons. First, because it seems that it's a group that there are technicals of child protection and participation, and I'm very happy to be in a group like this. Very often we are just in the middle of so many paperwork and budgets and dynamics, and to discuss the technical issues, really the heart of the issue, it's not very common, so I'm very glad for that. The second reason it is that I'm going to humbly present the experience in 6 countries, representative from Balkans, South Caucasus, the Middle East, and Central Asia. And the third it is that I'm going to present some provoking evidence, not just the one that we are used to, and it might be a bit hard for our ears, but I'm always searching for things that are new and different rather than those that are common and we are used to. And more than that, it's provoking evidence that actually it's going to lead on how to inform the programming. So without due delay, I'm going to start. So I'm going to present two concepts and projects. That it's child protection referral and response mechanism and citizen voice and action. Both of them are regarding to child protection, but as it is organized, the whole webinar, it will be a lot of interaction with you. And so this is the first one. We're going to discuss on citizen voice and action first, just to learn what those two concepts, but I'm not going to present everything. I'm going to also generate it from you. So based on your experience, when you hear citizens voice and action, what this might be? Is it that citizens take action for their rights? Citizens can be adults and children in this case. Does it mean that citizens compare the promise with the deliverables, or that citizens have a dialogue with governments? Judith? Yes, thank you. So here is the poll as well. So when we talk about citizens' voice and action, what does it tell us for you? So 2 has voted on 2 first one. 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, good. Thanks so much. We can end the poll, I guess. Oh, it's still, okay. Good, thanks so much. Here it is the answer. Actually, it's related to all the above. So in this case, the citizen voice and action means citizens take actions for their rights, means the citizens compare the promise with the deliverables, what government have promised and what are government deliverables in terms of child protection. And citizens, yes, can be adults and children, and of course citizens have a dialogue with government to find the best solution. So what does it mean in practice actually? It's that organization and staff prepare so they could enable citizens engagement, and they create the groups that are citizens voice and action, or shortly CVA groups, that are children and adults from the community. And what they do, they compare the standards, the promises, the specific standard for a specific service, and then they see what it is, the actual situation, and in that comparison that they come up with the evidence on what needs to be changed. And for that they go through the engagement via community gatherings, and when they decide what needs to be changed, then they dialogue with the government so that the services could be improved and the policy could be improved as well. And it continues again, enabling citizen engagement, because it's not a linear process and it never finished just with one round. Then what is child protection referral and response mechanism for the most vulnerable children? It's again an opportunity for us to discuss together. Is it that children and adults shape child protection as best fits to the most vulnerable? It's probably most vulnerable children and adults shape child protection as best fits to the most vulnerable. It's changing the law, or none of the statements? What it is from your perspective? There is no wrong and there is no wrong answer. It's totally what you think based on just the title, what comes in your mind. So there are yes, 1, changing the law. 2, most vulnerable children and adults shall shape CP as best fits the most vulnerable. And 1, children and adults shall shape the CP as best fits the most vulnerable. There are 3 for the second one. It's a good guess. So it's just by the title, whatever comes in your mind. Yeah. Good. So 5 are for the second. Yes. So yeah, I would like to say that actually, yes, those that vote for the second, they are right. In this particular case, the project regarding to child protection referral and response mechanism that fits most to the most vulnerable. It's about most vulnerable children and also adults that shape together child protection as best fits to the most vulnerable children. And it's about, when we talk about most vulnerable children, are those that are at risk of the violence or that they have experienced it. As well as when we talk about adults, it's adults that lives in that community, and also adults that have are responsible for that, have the mandate, so the duty bearers to ensure for the right holders their rights. So those two, CVH, Citizen Voice and Action, and also Child Protection Referral and Response Mechanism that fits best to the most vulnerable, have some common themes between them. With this presentation introduction that was given to you up to now, I would like you to ask, what are those common themes? And here it is one theme. It's both models are engaging children and adults groups. Here it is the poll for you as well. Is it true or is it false that both models are engaging children and adults group? So 3 has voted that yes, it is true. 4. 5, yes, it is correct. So both models, one is thinking that it's false, but actually in this case it's true. Both models engage children and adults group. In the CVA project, children and adults are engaged to compare the standard, to compare the promise with the deliverables. In the CP referral and response mechanism that fits best to the most vulnerable, both groups are engaged in shaping the mechanism that fits best to the most vulnerable. Another common theme it is that both models are addressing issues regarding to the environment, let's say physical environment in this case. Is it true or is it false? Yes, so some are thinking yes and some are thinking no. If we're talking about the protective environment, the answer is yes. But if we are talking about physical environment, the answer is no, because it's more on the mechanism, on the child protection mechanism, on the systems approach, rather than just the physical environment. But I know that the word environment could mislead because it could be a protection environment. So yes, let me just look at the countries. So those two models actually have been implemented in the 6 countries in Balkan, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Albania and Kosovo, and in South Caucasus and Armenia, in Central Asia, Pakistan, and also in Middle East, Lebanon. Sorry that it's not in the presentation, but also in Lebanon. And there was evidence that have been captured. Oh, sorry, I forgot one of the polls. Thanks, Judith. So, thanks so much, Judith. So, are both models shaping local child protection mechanism? Is it true or false? When we compare the deliverables with the promise of government regarding the child protection, does this influence the local child protection mechanism? Yes. So, there are 3 answers that are true. Yes. Thank you so much. 6 now, that actually it's true. Yes, both models shaping local child protection mechanism, although there are 2 different models and there are common themes into it as well. Thanks so much. Yes. So these models, as I said, you know now what it is about, just giving you a flavor about it, or which countries have been implemented, and I would like to share a bit on the evidence. The evidence proves that there is statistically significant change in the areas and in the people and in the group and in the child protection system that was involved compared to the areas, people and city systems where these 2 projects haven't had any relation. So it's significant, statistically significant change, so it's not just the perception. but it's a change that is proved statistically, that gives us evidence that these two projects are effective. Now, there are some provoking findings in the evidence. While it shows that the models are effective, there are also some provoking findings. Which are some of the provoking findings? Just for you to get your view, what do you think? Would it be the provoking finding about the role of children, about the impact of the training, or about the role of government? What would you say? And probably you could just write here on the chat just what could be your first idea that comes in your mind. If it's a provoking finding about impact of the training, yes, you're correct. Yeah, correct. But it's also about the role of children. Yes. So let me just present one by one the provoking findings, and just to tell you why, from my perspective, were provoking, and I'd like to also get your views regarding to that. So about the role of children, one of the findings of the evidence, it feels very clear that there is no effective child protection mechanism without the involvement of the most vulnerable children. Before starting this work, me and some colleagues of mine, we conducted a global literature review on how we could have projects regarding to the child protection system in a way that would be effective, because very often we see a lot of input but just a little result. And throughout literature review, learning from academia, from international organizations, from local organizations, from different evaluations and meta-evaluations, it was very, very clear that it was evaluated as a missing point, the fact that most vulnerable children are invisible there. We develop the programs for them, but they are completely invisible. And those two projects, actually the evidence shows that we could not have effective child protection mechanism without the involvement of the most vulnerable children. Now, what happened in the reality, it is that I'm sure all of us that are in this call, we know that, we believe that. But what happened is that actually we don't do that, or some of us don't do that, because of certain reasons. It's the project proposal is to be submitted very fast. It's not in the donor's interest. It's not in the capacities of people in the field actually to have a meaningful participation. It's because there is a complaint that most vulnerable children could not be able to contribute in that level. And we don't do that. In the best scenario, we involve children, but not necessarily the most vulnerable one. Actually, the evidence in both cases shows that it's not just that it's their right, children's right, to participate in everything that concerns them. It's that actually it's in the interest of the quality of the project to have children's voice in that. And we believe that it adds values, definitely. And in addition to that, it creates the culture and capability for accountability now and at any moment, because the children that are today are those that will keep accountable. The government will keep accountable each other in the future. And yes, I agree with Bona that the donors should hear this. And yes, it absolutely should be included. Otherwise, we would have some level of success, but will not have an effective child protection mechanism for the most vulnerable. So it's for children to get skills, it's for children that it's their rights, but it's for the accountability culture within the community that they are. So we're contributing into the long-term effective child protection mechanism, not just today, not just in 1 year that we have the project. But in addition to that, it serves to the quality of the project. So it's a win-win situation from the whole side if we really believe it and we learn how to do that. So never start a project without that. I know it's sometimes hard, and I know that again we're so much dependent on the donor, but we still could get children's view in a quick way. We still could use children's view that is documented from other projects, other organizations, other sources, in order to really match their view with what we are developing. Another moment of another provoking evidence is about impact of the training. Actually, I know that many of you, as me, we start the first activities and outputs of the training of the project are always with training. There is nothing wrong with that, so I don't want you to leave the webinar with a perception that the message was don't do training. It's just that the training will not produce the results. Social cohesion and action will do, and I'll explain that in a minute. We do a lot of investment of the training, so people to change their mind and then to stand up and then to contribute in shaping mechanism and then to contribute in comparing the promise with the deliverables, to compare the standards and so on. But this would not change them as much as the social cohesion, the group cohesion, the action that they will take, and the reflection after that. What does it mean? If we are a group that we are interested for child labor, but then I believe that it's not a big deal. Children can still work because the family needs them, and the family doesn't have income, so it's quite normal that the family, the children have to be responsible and contribute. But then the rest of the group actually think that yes, they can contribute as long as it doesn't jeopardize the other rights. They can contribute depending on, do they have a choice? Do they have the opportunity to play, to rest, to learn, to develop in other areas, and so on. So even though I might think that it's totally fine for the child to be engaged in child labor, the fact that I worked in a group and I believe in the group, and then we take action for the child labor and reflect, will make me change rather than the training itself. So the message of those evidence is tailor the training in that size that helps people to get oriented and to start walking with the group. But don't spend too much time and money with a lot of training, because they will learn more as a result of the social cohesion and action. And yes, that's very right, Judith, that even in the training, yes, if people do something, I totally agree with you. So the role of the expert now, it's changed. It's a new profile of the expert. It's not taking the group to follow the expert, but the expert to follow the group and provide the training in a way throughout the journey, rather than at the beginning and then let them take action. You provide some orientation at the beginning, let them take action, spend time for the group to create that social cohesion, encourage them to take action, and then provide support through the action and reflection. So it's social cohesion, it's trust within the group, and it's action that will make them more focused and will change them. Otherwise, they will be part of an action, but will not change and provide and produce the change, the impact. Yes. So now we'll discuss a bit on what are the things, based on what I shared up to now, what are the things that probably should not be done that scrupulously. So probably what are the things that I put it here, what needs to be deleted, what it is not relevant. Thanks, Judith, for the poll. So do we need to establish group, to train intensively, to let them take only one action? What it is the thing that actually we should consider probably not doing? Yeah, so 50% are, 66% I think probably train intensively. We shouldn't train them intensively. And 33% are thinking that we shouldn't establish the group because it's like deleting. We're going to delete this time, not vote but delete. So 75% are thinking that we shouldn't train them intensively, especially with the formal, or let's say the classic word of training that we are used to. Thanks, Judith. Yes. So the answer to delete is train intensively. Again, in the classic way of us understanding training. And we need to establish group at the beginning. We need to get actually, we need actually to get the group there in order to have them take an action. And Bona is raising a very good question. It's how to translate establishing social cohesion in terms of the project. And there are different ways on how to do that. The best way is investing in the relationship, investing in the group, to spend time together and to truly know each other. Very often in the projects that I write, in the projects that I provide feedback or approve or whatever, very often there is no time for that, there is no activity for that. It is never, because we don't consider it as important, and therefore we don't translate it, we don't accommodate it within the project proposal. But spending time so the group, to create the social cohesion, to know each other, and to start at the beginning with the initiative that they would like to start at the beginning. If it's just a village and they would like just to take and do a celebration in the village, let them do that, because it's a time for them to know each other, and the time for us to know them, and the time for them to know us. So give space within the project for the activities that they will increase their social cohesion, activities that they would know each other, they will take some action which we might help them to be in the context of the project, but also even to let them, even if it's outside of it. Because actually we know that what it is child protection all about is to transform and repair broken relationships that have led to the violence in the first place. And if we don't create a space for the relationship, we might have the best laws, and the things would still not change. But I'm open for other options on what could be the social cohesion in the concrete terms of the project at the end. So I'll go back to your question at the end, Bona, if you don't mind. Good. Then, thanks, Judith, for the poll. Again, we need to delete what it is not relevant. Mobilize around social cohesion and child protection. Let them take only 2 actions and reflect and learn. From your point of view, from what you heard up to now, what are some other how that we can do? What it is for us to delete? So, answers in terms of deleting what it is not relevant. Mobilize around social cohesion and child protection, reflect and learn. Desire to delete or desire to keep? Okay, thanks, Judith. So it's more, don't put a number in terms of action that they would like to tell. Challenge them back on what does it mean if you take 2 actions, what does it entail in order for you to be successful. So don't put numbers. Very often in our program, projects and targets, we put this number of actions, but who are we to decide how many actions they would like to take, how many actions they have the capacity to take. So don't take action. But for us, it's when we come to how to do that, these are the key considerations. Important it is on how we establish groups, on the people that are interested to the issue, how we mobilize around social cohesion and child protection, so it's not just child protection, but also around social cohesion, and how we support them to take action and to reflect with them. Now, we went to what it is, how to do that, and now it is, so what? Okay, we've done that. So what was the result of the evidence? Again, as I said, we went through quasi-experimental design on comparing the groups that we're working with the control groups that we didn't have any influence and any other organization had, and it shows that actually there are effective approaches, and the evidence was leading as a compass. What does it mean? Very often we produce evidence and then evidence stay on our folders. But what we did different for those two, it was how the evidence could inform the programming. What does this evidence mean for the theory of change? How the theory of change look like different now with this kind of evidence. So it's not just the program to inform evidence, but the evidence to inform the programming. And learning that we took from that experience was that we should not create models that are written in stone, but come up with key considerations and let bridge model and let the model, let the field people actually to implement it based on their context, but on the group capacities, based on the group energy to run the journey. And of course, key considerations should be based on the evidence, and the project in itself has to allow space to adapt. So let's recap. What were the provoking findings? Can any of you remember what was a couple of provoking findings that you could write in the poll? Thanks, Judith. So let us see if it remained to you, if there was something that struck you or not at all. Involvement of children, yes. Involvement of the most vulnerable children. That's really one of the findings, yes. Any other? Yes. Yes, we started need to, yeah. Yeah. We could start with training, but we shouldn't focus only to that. The change doesn't happen with that. That's right. That's a very good one. Thanks, Judith, for the poll. Thanks so much. And then, what is the compass in this case? In the presentation that I did, what is the compass that should lead to what we do? Not just our impression, but the evidence itself. And the key considerations were related to the provoking findings as well. So the important on how we establish the group, how we create the social cohesion and mobilize around child protection, and also how we use the evidence for it, yeah. And create space for key considerations rather than very sophisticated projects that have everything it's written there, and if we could not implement as it's written, that we're led to fail. So that's all what I wanted to share with you, and I would love to hear your comment right now. Judith, Paula, do you want to add anything?
First of all, thank you very much, Tatiana, for this very thought-provoking presentation, and you really made us reconsider what we have been doing. And now, please feel free to write your comments or questions in the chat box, and then we will ask Tatiana to kindly answer them.
Sure, I'll be happy to. And probably we can answer it together, because all of you that are in the chat have a solid experience, and I'm humbled from every one of yours experience.
Are you planning to start sharing promising practices?
Sure, that's a very good question. Both of them, that's a very good question. Thanks so much, Bona. So what it is happening now is that we are producing some documents that are called Evidence for Change, where it is involved everything from the theory of a change, to the results for change, the type of the evidence that it's captured, the cost effectiveness, but by the way it is calculated also how much each of the model, the project that I presented, cost, and both of them are very, very low cost. And also the details on how to develop the program and details on how to capture, to measure the evidence and then to inform back the program. The CDA, Citizen Voice and Action, it's expected actually to be published in March, so I'll share with Bona, and Bona and Judith will share with every one of you. And then the Child Protection Referral and Response Mechanism is in the process to be finalized in end of April and May. So you will have the evidence for change. If you just need one-pagers and different documents, I could share those already. But if you're interested for the evidence for change document that captures everything, March, April are the months that they will be ready.
So it means that it will be hot off the press.
Sure. Yes.
Bona is typing in. It's gone beyond just there.
This is the first platform that the expert on. Yeah. Yes, that's a very good question, Bona. Yes, actually, I've discussed the findings with my peers, with some of my peers from other organizations, and yeah, some of the findings are quite kind of confirming, and it's always, especially when it comes to involvement of most vulnerable children, it's always this discussion. We know that, but how come we never do it? We know that, we believe that, we have produced thousands of materials that we should, but how come we don't? One global director from World Vision have produced once a beautiful kind of presentation on heart, mind, and hands. You have to have those all in terms of most vulnerable. You have to have the heart to believe actually that it should be done so and it shouldn't be done any other way. You have to have mind to really have the guidance, but you have to have hands to really produce those. So yeah. So let me just read a bit. If understood, it might be a lot of reformation in the way that we do projects, and the way how donors respond. Yes, actually that's an issue that the reality is we depend from donors, we like it or not. But I believe also that depends on how we produce the project. Very often the technicals have a little input in the grant proposals, and very often they have a lot. But I think that we need to begin there, exactly on educating donors, but also on educating ourselves on how to present that to donors. What needs in our narrative to change? So we still could involve most vulnerable children. We could still include social cohesion there, but then written it in a narrative that donor could digest it. So it's also what we need to change in our narrative for donors. So it's interesting because in other forums of expert on child protection, there was so much resistance on the evidence for training. And very often I noticed that actually it's because we as experts or specialists or practitioners in this area, we see ourselves very much linked to that, and I'm one of them. I produce guidance, so for me it's like, if they don't follow the guidance, then how I'm gonna make sure that the targets are reached. But actually it means that the guidance will have to be provided, but in a way that we walk with their pace, not that the groups walk with the guidance of World Vision or with the guidance of Third Zone and so on, because then they are following us. It's not that they are following, they are owning their own development. Yeah. So the question here it is, how long was this process? Thanks so much, Judith. So what we did in Middle East and Eastern Europe in World Vision, we created a research and development framework with 4 stages. One stage was concept. When we developed the concept, when we searched, we did a literature review to search what does experience globally tells us about that beyond World Vision, beyond just Middle East and Eastern Europe, and beyond just international organizations. And this as a process was 2 months. And then the second phase was the explore phase. And the explore phase meaning that once we developed a concept with the theory of action, we called it action not change. Then we explored it, whether is it effective or not, and it was only 6 months. And at the end of the exploration, we did an evaluation just to see the temperature. Is it going well? Is it in order not to wait till the end of the 3rd year for us to see the result. And then the evidence from the explore informed actually the validation phase, when we go more into deep, and it gives us confidence whether this is the right approach, what components are the right, and so on. So the evidence from Explore informed the theory of action, and from there, with the new theory of action and revised program, we went through the validation. And the validation in itself goes from 6 months up to 1 year, and then it's the evaluation, and then the scale up. Different field offices took the evidence, and then they decided whether they wanted to go with this approach or not. So it depends on how deep you would like to go, but it takes 2 years, but it might go longer depending on, again, how deep you would like to go. Now, could you say a bit of what happened in the control group? Thanks so much, Julie. That's why I like the technicians or groups, because these are the questions that are so rarely discussed unless we are in the group like this. So what happened to the control group? This is an eternal dilemma. So we had exactly this concern. What will happen to the control group? Are we going to treat them as just experiment? So we invite them for our evaluations, and then we say to them goodbye. So we wanted to avoid that. So let me tell you what we did to avoid that, but I have to say to you that it's never enough. So I'm never completely in peace with that. So what were the measures that we took? We usually went through the schools that have the similar characteristics with the area that we were working with. So we discussed with the school directors, we discussed with the school government, and so on. And we decided the best time for them to do that kind of evaluation, as well as the best activities, so we could support them. And it happens that twice. It happened at the end of the first semesters, which was December. So it was in the eve of the Christmas, or just the New Year Eve. So we asked the school director, the directorate of the school, whether we could support the student government in the initiative that they had regarding to the end of the school, end of the year activity. So in that case, we were pushing, promoting for the child protection. We were paying, supporting, but also supporting even technically their activities, but pushing that the student government to take a stronger voice in the community. In some cases, this was not possible, so it was just the activity within the school that we supported. In some cases, this was possible. So this is the first, that we supported them in their own activity, so they could have some gain as well. In the same time, after we captured the data, we asked people in the field that they could use those data for the advocacy in the local level. And we had also a meeting with the head of the services, or even the head of the municipality or head of the commune when it was the village, so we could present the data. So they could see what was the situation in their area. So we did the support to the student government, the support to the activities in the school, as well as we try to use those data for the purpose of the project, we formed the project, but also for the local government to know the situation in the area. But again, I have to say that it's never enough. In some of the areas, it was a decision that they will go to the control group in the area that they are expected to work after 2 or 3 years, because World Vision work in the approaches with a sponsorship when we go in a certain areas and stay there for 10 years and so. So that was another decision that okay, we'll go in those control areas. We'll call control areas those areas that we are gonna work one day in the near future. But again, this is not enough. So I'm just presenting here some of the ways that we use to mitigate and to address this, but you could never mitigate it completely if you never work with that, or at least you don't know whether any other organization work with that. But if it's another suggestion from any one of you in the chat, I'll be very happy to take it forward.
Thank you very much. I think it's more than what we were expecting. In fact, I just wanted to have an idea of what the control group did during the same period. I see Valbona writing, so let's wait for her comments.
Sure. Okay. Yes, I totally understand. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I'll be more than happy to. Yes. Good, thanks so much. So that's all from my side. I'm gonna, as a follow-up, I'm gonna share with Valbona evidence for change documents once they are ready, but also I'm gonna share what it is ready up to now in terms of one-pagers, theory of action, and roadmaps and so on. And yeah, definitely I would love to have this discussion later on, and
Thank you very
yeah,
much.
learn more from you.
Very
Yep.
interesting.
Thanks.
And as just said, Valbona, we're looking forward to receiving the documents and sharing it with the Chartup community. And in closing, we just want to hear from our listeners. Thank you. And then the last question is for us to improve the way we are doing the webinars. And many of you have comments on timing of webinars and how it fits your working day. So if you could kindly help us with this question. So Joanna, which time zone? CET? Yeah, if you can, yes, please. That's a good question. So as you can see, we have 4 for end of working hours, 4 to 6. There are 2 people for 2 to 4. There's one person who is flexible. Yeah, this has been our experience as well. Thank you very much for your votes, and thank you very much for being with us. And please come back to charthub.org for more information. And as soon as we have the final documents from Brikena, we will definitely share with the community, as well as the recording of this webinar, which will be available by this evening. Thank you very much for being with us, and all the best.